The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on. I think
He missed the complete. That is crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield for 4. He slides through. He tags Richard.
While the long straights of Road America delivered its special brand of high-speed battles, the AMG-SC takes a small step across the northern border to tackle a circuit with an entirely different nature. One of the few tracks in the world to retain the same layout since it was built over half a century ago, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park epitomizes the old-school ethos in racecourse construction. The blind crests and long sweepers will leave few places to hide from traffic and will certainly test the patience and guts of all the drivers in the series. We'll see who's made of the right stuff as we get ready to watch Round 9 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group's Sportscar Challenge, and you're watching it live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth covering the prototype and GTLM classes is Bill Soup Zahn. Following all the action in the GT3 class is Michael Smith, better known as simply Smitty. Down in the production truck is our director Amjad Yamin, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Smitty, most drivers still prefer to call this place by its original name, Mosport. And it honestly feels more fitting to call it that with how it still retains so much of its original look and feel. They don't make them like they used to, eh?
Well, they certainly don't, Joe. Mosport harkens back to the early 1960s, when the facility first opened to sports cars with someone named Sterling Moss bringing home that first event win. The driving ace proposed that the hairpin actually be 2 distinct corners for height and challenge, and as such it's now named Moss Corner. Located in Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada, this 10-turn, nearly 2.5-mile road course will be the host for tonight's 1-hour contest and will be one of the toughest challenges these drivers have faced all season. With only 3 of the 10 corners being left-handers, changing elevation and plenty of line-specific turns, throw in the lack of traditional passing zones, and traffic will play the biggest part tonight. But to see how to get around this place when you do actually have clean and uninterrupted space, let's jump on board the GSRC Bimmer for tonight's lap guide.
Alright, we've got Kevin Brown in the GSRC Z4, so let's do a lap around Mosport. The front stretch here is relatively short compared to most pit straights, and right away you dive into a pretty fast downhill right-hander. The main worry is not to let the car drift wide, because the grass to the left can easily send the car spinning into the inside wall. Immediately after that, you're thrown into the scary Turn 2. A super blind crest with only slippery grass between you and a punishingly close barrier makes it critical to get this one right. Next, drift the car to the left of the track for Turn 3. It's an early apex and then the corner opens up on the exit. The normal line will take you over to the right side and you're going to plunge way downhill through Turn 4. Only a slight lift to help keep the car to the left and set you up for Moss Corner. With the track raising back up, you can brake super late and still get the car to turn in, which means passes here are flying on a wing and a prayer. But you've got 2 apexes, and the second one is easily the most important. The sooner you get on the power and the less you clobber the curb, the better, because every inch of traction counts since it leads onto the Andretti Straight. This is basically the long climb back up to the top of the hill we just plunged down. This is where you see most passes set up since it's the longest flat-out portion of the circuit. But as if it weren't hard enough to pass elsewhere, it doesn't end in a heavy braking zone. Instead, we enter the S's, and it's possible to go too wide and defend from the outside. If you can hold on into Turn 9, the left-hander, you'll switch to the inside. Then finally, you'll sling it through Turn 10 and return to the start-finish line where you finished a lap around Mosport. That cockpit view really gives you a good idea of the elevation change around here and just how little you can see coming through some of these corners. Now, to give us a little bit of a clearer picture, though, since we can't get a clear picture from inside the cockpit around these corners of the championship battle, let's go to Bill and see what it's shaping up like now that we're into the second North American round here.
Yeah, Joe, with yesterday being Valentine's Day, it's safe to say that romance could maybe still be on the minds of our viewers, yet alone maybe the drivers. So, on a related note, let's talk about the marriage of drivers that make up the team championship. Now, keep in mind that teams are made up of no more than 3 drivers, 1 from each class, with each driver's race results going toward his team's point total. And There is also an iRating cap that prevents teams from stocking up on rose-level drivers and makes teams piece together a driver bouquet that includes carnations and daisies as well. Now, in the team championship, Team WFO continues to be the silkiest negligee in the underwear drawer, with all three of its drivers, Matt Quinn in the prototypes, Troy Schuster in the GT Element, and Robbie Morrison in the GT3s, holding podium positions. WFO's sister team, Team OFW, is more than 30 points back, with Paul Darling and his roof being that team's biggest contributor. TMC Racing White sits third, despite the fact that not one of the drivers currently can claim a podium. Moving to the champagne class that is the prototypes, Talon Racing's Robert Tinsey is the glass that just keeps bubbling. His current win streak is at 7, and Tinsey shows no sign of losing his fizz. WFO driver Matt Quinn is moving around John Ulmer into second, as the Autobahn West driver's glass has gone flat and now sits in third. In the expensive box of chocolates that is the GT1 class, it's hard to pick between the delicious Excelsior White Jason Girard and the very tasty WFO Troy Schuster. Now, Kevin Binkley at Autobahn West is starting to look pretty good as well, now up into third. And then finally, in the GT3 division, Paul Darling is the plushest teddy on the bed. Looking to take some of the stuffing out of the Darling Bear is Dexter Castro. Lost under the bed with the Dust Bunnies is Robbie Morrison, Liv Peterson, and Ross Booth. Now, Joe, I know that you're still under the ether of fresh nuptials, so Cupid's arrow can still find its mark. This is my 29th Valentine's Day with my girl, and so for us, it's a Three Musketeer bar and a smile. But one thing is for certain, in about an hour, 3 of these drivers are going to get lucky, race-wise.
Are we going to have to send you off for a cold shower after that report there?
Romance. Everyone likes romance.
Everybody does, of course. So, after that interesting update, let's talk about some of the places on this track that are going to be of most interest. And Smitty, I'm afraid you're not going to have a long list of passing zones here to talk about first up.
Here are the passing zones. Yep, that's right. Not much. It's going to be one of those things where you're going to have to set it up in advance. You're going to have to be thinking well in advance. These last-minute moves that we see sometimes in traditional, like hard-braking hairpins, that's not really going to fly so much here at Mosport, and it's a lot to do with only having really one corner after another all in the same direction, because you don't have rights and the lefts and lefts and the rights. One corner goes into the next one very, very quickly, and it's very hard to just throw it in there. If you're going to make it through one-on-one or even one-on-two, you're going to have to plan in advance. Speaking of planning in advance, that's what the traffic's going to be. Quebec corner might have a thing that's turn 3 after the treacherous turn 2. Moss corner, that double apex, so that double corner right-hander, that's another shot to make something happen there, especially in the second part of it. Then, of course, turn 8 at the end of the Mario Andretti straightaway. That's probably going to be your best shot to get a draft and pass, but we see a lot of defense there too, so it's not clear cut here for sure.
Undoubtedly. I know my time racing here, it's definitely an exercise in patience, trying to figure out where you can get it done, looking for the best opportunity, maybe even simply just waiting for some sort of mistake from the driver ahead. I'm sure that's what most everybody other than traffic is going to have to try and wait for if they get up to their opponent's rear spoiler. Now, obviously, with the kind of old school nature that we keep bringing up here, Bill, there's a number of places I feel like attrition could even come into play. And where do you think most of these drivers are going to be finding the wall and various rearrangement of their body parts of their car?
What's interesting, this has such a feel of, it's almost built like a street course with the walls so close. And there's grass here, there's very little runoff area, paved runoff area. So I would imagine we're going to see a lot of problems here with cars getting wide and not being able to keep it off the wall. Fortunately, turn 1, there's a little bit of runoff there. You can bring that thing back a little bit. But man, I'm going to see it a lot, especially when we're seeing these the multi-car classes going by. So I think our director's going to be busy finding lots of replays for us to keep an eye on.
Undoubtedly. I feel like Clayton will definitely catch a few drivers out if someone tries to sneak up the inside of their car when they're not expecting it. That corner being so high speed and downhill with the grass on the exit, which is now paved in real life. We should note, those of you who've watched racing here in real life and wondering why it looks different, iRacing has not updated it, has not rescanned the course, so They have the older, tougher version, which is great for the viewers because it demands more of the drivers, not necessarily as great for the drivers. Looking at the different classes, some of the stories to worry about. Big one really for me, Bill, is Quinn jumping up to second in the points. I don't think we expected that come the start of the season.
Yeah, no, Ulmer has really started to struggle a little bit. Quinn's been doing very consistently, but what's interesting today is he's sitting sixth in qualifying right now for the prototypes. Qualifying up there, we'll talk about it when we set the grid. Very tight up front. Quinn is in sixth position right now, but honestly, he's only 0.3 back of Tinsey on the pole. So should be very exciting up front. But yeah, great performance from Quinn, and he's helping out his team as well.
And on the other side of the battles over in GT3, you know, Smitty, I am extremely impressed with the way that Dexter Castro has been driving, despite all his doom and gloom that he keeps talking about between the races, him not thinking he has much of a chance. He's been performing. I don't want to curse him, but he's been performing almost flawlessly, just taking advantage of things wherever he possibly can and outdriving that BMW, which really doesn't have the straight line speed that the roof does.
No, and we've talked about a couple of those different points at different tracks. We've talked about places like, Monza, where we know the BMW just didn't have the legs on the roof. Talked about places like Phillip Island, where maybe it was a little bit different. We've also talked about the mind games, or changing things up a little bit. But as you say, Castro, he's one of those guys who's going to be in the hunt, and now he's starting to claw things back a little bit. We look at qualifying right now, and he's right towards the sharp end. Small advantage on Darling, who leads most of the roof drivers. And yeah, I think he's definitely one of those guys who's, he's making the most of any opportunity he can. GT3 right now, Castro is the guy who's challenging Darling. Darling is the guy who's put the points on the board early. Tonight, though, bit of a curveball, bit of a spoiler. Danny Kane looks like he may have just stole away the pole by 0.006 of a second over the regular runners. This one's going to be exciting today in GT3.
And I'm sure Dexter Castro is not happy that Kane's schedule has cleared up. He wasn't even supposed to be here. And then very late in the game, he found that he had the opportunity to drive. So he jumped in and has moved over to the GT3 class. And much to Dexter Castro's chagrin, as you said, he has grabbed the pole right now. We still have just a little bit of time left in qualifying. And I'm seeing if there's anybody else that could have the possibility of stealing it from. And I'm seeing that Patrick Fleming is out there, but he's pretty far down. He's about a second behind Danny Kane right now. So unless he finds something special in that BMW, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to pip him for that pole position. So it's going to be an interesting one. And I know we were talking to Dexter, and he was talking about wanting to kind of pull a Vettel, maybe try and gap the field while he can in the early stages, get away from those roofs so that they don't have a chance to outrun him down the backstretch. The Andretti Straight, which is the only long stretch where they can be on the power fully for quite a long time around this track. About a minute left to go in qualifying, so while we got some time, let's go over our picks. Bill, prototypes, who you got your eye on?
Okay, well, it's against my policy. I can't pick Tinsey, and honestly, it looks like Tinsey may not be the guy to get here today because he's struggling a little bit as he sits on the pole, but he's only up by 1/100th of a second. So let's go with the second guy there. Let's go with Mark Ponick there. I think it might be time for him. Now, I'm also covering the GTLML class, so we go down there, and there they are again, Schuster and Girard. Like I said, what's your favorite chocolate in the box? I'm going to go with that swirly circular one there with a little cream on top. I'm going with Troy Schuster. He looks like he's going to be pretty tasty. So I like Schuster and Ponick today.
I'm sure Schuster is looking to rebound after having a couple disappointing races. He's finishing in third at Motegi and then at fourth at Road Atlanta. So he is going to want to try and get the momentum back in his position. So what about the GT3 class, Smitty? Do you think Dexter can pull it off?
Well, originally you would go Dexter as the guy to beat because before Kane went out on course, it looked like he had about almost a quarter second on the field in quali, and then Kane shows up. Like you said, you talked to Castro before. He was hoping to get a little bit of a stretch of the legs. Well, with Kane there, it actually might help him out a little bit. Maybe those two guys fight and help a little bit, pull away from the rest of the guys. You know what I'd like to see, though? I would like to see Darling make something happen here. P5 right now in quali, the lone roof that seems to have some speed. I just don't think anybody is going to be able to take those top two, Kane and Castro.
You know, Joe, we were talking about Dexter being maybe upset that he didn't get pole in the GT3 class, but I think probably offsetting that is the fact that he's got Morrison and Lindsay between him and Darling. Really, that's who he wants to outdistance. So I think he's probably happy to be 3 spots ahead of Paul.
I'm sure that's going to help his case. Anything that can put a gap between himself and Darling is certainly going to help his case. I'm kind of wondering what Morrison is going to be able to do. He's been finding speed this season, just hasn't been able to find the top of the podium, and that's partly because of guys like Castro and Darling just performing so wonderfully this season. So Morrison's going to be hungry and sitting in third. He's only about 2/10 behind our pole sitter. I'm sure he's going to have an opportunity with the traffic coming into play as well. Checkered flag is out, so drivers are completing their qualifying laps, their hot laps. Let's go through the order and start with the prototypes, see where everybody sits. Robert Tinsey is on the pole. Mark Ponick, he almost had the pole if it wasn't for the last lap that Robert Tinsey was able to put in during qualifying, starting on the outside of the front row. Kevin Santana, another surprise. He was up there in practice. He had very quick times. He is starting in third. And John Ulmer, not where he wants to be to try and turn this championship around. He is fourth on the grid. Jimbo Pfeiffer is going to be starting in fifth, the driver we're familiar with from the Pacific Majors. Don't think we've seen him here before in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. But next to him, it's going to be Matt Quinn on the outside of row 3. Bill?
Row 4 is made up by Tim McLeish and Paul Slavonic. Then back behind them, it's John O'Day and Mark Wilson making up row 5. And spots 11 and 12 go to Chance Kelly and David Tejeda. Smitty?
After that, you had Joe Wren. He's going to be in the 13th spot. And then pole sitter, Troy Schuster for the GTLM guys. He's in the 14th spot. Jason Gerard, 15th. Dino Topich is going to be in 16th. Billy Smith, 17th. And then Kevin Binkley in 18th there, Joe.
Dave Hill is going to start the race in 19th, followed by David Sockrider in 20th. Then it's our AM points leader in GTLM, Brandon Postma, starting 21st. Mark Schindel in 22nd, and Robert Jackman in 23rd. And finally in 24th in the GTLM class, it's going to be Sheldon Woloshin. Bill?
Then wrapping up the GTLM class is Sean Reese, and that gets us to the GT3s. And we talked about it before. We got Danny Kane and Dexter Castro sitting in the first row there. Morrison and Lindsay in 28th and 29th overall, row 2. And then 30th position, we talked about it in his roof. Paul Darling, the first roof, 5 cars back. Okay, Smitty?
Jim McInnes is going to start in the 31st position. Sheldon Rosenbaum, 32nd. Patrick Fleming, 33rd. Matt Owens is in 34th, David Henry in 35th, and Leif Peterson a little bit further back when we're used to seeing him in 36th there, Joe.
37th will be Emanuele Here. Then it's Kevin O'Keefe, Rutgers Kev, starting in 38th. Darren Kuhn will be in 39th. Robert Sklanka in 40th. Christopher Sherburne in 41st. And we have Brett Trocine starting 42nd without a lap time. You see, you don't see on there, but Jeffrey Price did not qualify. We believe he is not going to be starting this race. He was in an HPD. And with that, Pace Car has finally started off, and they are on their pace lap before we get going for 60 minutes here in round 9 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge.
Large field today, boys. What do we get, about 41?
Almost a full field out here. 42 it looks like. So yeah, and for a track as short as this with as few passing opportunities, that is going to make it extra difficult. I know we keep talking about this, but I don't feel like we can stress enough how hard it is to deal with traffic around this circuit.
No, and we have 13 HPDs here today, the prototypes. That's a larger field than we usually have. That's going to be a lot of lap traffic to get around.
You know, the one redeeming factor, Smitty, is that the GTLM and GT3 class doesn't have any overlap in the qualifying, so those guys at least can be a little bit separated at the start.
Yeah, it's not something we've seen every round where those guys get a clean breakaway between them, but yeah, for this round, everybody gets to play with each other on the normal way to do things. That being said, still not much to say between the GTLMs and the GT3s, so traffic could come into play early.
Pace Car is now heading up the Andretti Straight, which The other thing we didn't mention is the Andretti straight isn't really straight, so you can see all the bends in it. That can make it sometimes a little difficult to predict where your opponent is going to go and how they intend to defend, if they want to try and take the outside or inside. So something to watch out for as guys also deal with traffic up that long stretch and have to figure out which way guys elect to go as they deal with the slower and faster classes. Now coming up to the S's, series of very fast corners for these HPDs, a lot of downforce in them. So you're going to be able to see them taking alternate lines around these slower classes, around these corners, each of them slowly tightening up. One more corner for this pace car, then he's going to duck away in White's corner onto the pit entry. There he goes. Robert Tinsley has control of the field. He does not wait. He goes immediately and gives himself a nice gap back to Santana and Ponick. Drivers working their way through that fast first corner. Second through fourth there. Kind of bunched up, and Kevin Santana is off immediately and in the wall in the second corner. Turns himself over. We got another HPD. I didn't quite catch who that was towards the back that also went into the wall. Let's jump back to the GTLM start.
Schuster got a great jump now. He's moved out in front of Gerard, who's taken over second position. Topich is in third, Smith in fourth, Binkley in fifth, and rounding out that is Dave Hill. Smitty, are the GT3s to the start line yet?
GT3 is through turn number 1. It is Kane followed by Castro, and then 2 by 2, side by side, and then turn number 2. It could get ugly. They're going to keep it on the black stuff, though. Good for those guys. Third, fourth, and fifth, nose to tail. Right now, that is Morrison, Lindsay, and Darling.
And Darling was taking a little bit of a look on Lindsay, but couldn't quite sneak it in there. Oh wow, he's already taken another look. I think Darling knows what the game is here, that he's got to get by these guys very quickly to get up on Dexter Castro.
Absolutely. You got to make things happen now, or else those top 2 guys are going to get away. They're already starting to stretch it out now. Kane leading, and then it is going to be Castro following.
And Rosenbaum was into the wall behind them in the GT3s. There you can see him going very slowly up the straight. I didn't quite catch exactly where he ran into the wall, but that is not the way you want to start this race. Same thing for Santana, and it was Joe Wren, it looks like, who also ran into the wall. Let's look at that replay up in Clayton Corner. Here we can see them coming around. Now they were side by side. There was Ponick on the inside there, and it looks like Santana just ran out of track. And unfortunately, at the high speed that you're going through there, he could not get it woed up before the wall. And then you saw Wren there joining him, and Wren was just simply by himself, and I guess went off in sympathy.
I'll tell you what, it does not take much to go off in Clayton Corner there. That turn 2 is treacherous. You get your right sides in the grass, and it's almost game over every time.
And looking back up at the leaders, Tinsley already 3.5 seconds over Ulmer, who's managed to move himself up into second from fourth in the first 2 laps.
Yeah, Ulmer did a great move around Ponick to take over the second position. Now beginning to distance himself away from that blue car there. You see Ulmer and that red machine running 1, 2, 3 there. Now we drop back a little bit. McLeish is currently running in fourth. And then we drop back, a little battle going on here for fifth between Slavonic, O'Day, and Wilson, running 5th, 6th, and 7th.
It was very tight in the qualifying times between our top guys and the HPDs, but it's not proven to be that way in the race here in the early stages. But we'll need to keep an eye on these guys, because as soon as they catch that traffic, that could change things very quickly as we watch O'Day work his way up the straight, sandwiched between Slavonic and Wilson.
It's a little more competitive in the GTLM class there. So we'll take a look there. You're looking at Schuster, but he's right being hounded by Gerard. Right behind him is Santana, and then Topich. Oh, that's Santana. Sorry, Santana is in that prototype there. So it's 1, 2. Topich running third place there. And Smith, nice to see him running fourth overall.
And if you're wondering how Santana got that car righted and back out on the track, they do have a spare car, a free repair in this series. So Santana somewhat saved by that, but he's going to have to climb a very steep hill to hope to get any sense of a good result. And he's actually heading back into the pits now.
And maybe we want to go up to Tinsley right now as he's just starting to get through traffic here. Keep an eye. Tinsley has come up on the back of O'Keefe. He's getting around O'Keefe, and now he's got David Henry ahead of him. It's really going to be tough for these prototypes to get through traffic here.
Especially how fast they did it here. Lap 4 already, and we're starting to see traffic.
Absolutely no time for these guys to reach the GT3s. Oh, and Tinsey has a big moment getting loaded up behind Henry as we ride on board. As David Henry, he's trying to get past. Henry pulls over, lets him through. Now he's got Matt Owens to try and squeak by on the front stretch.
And he's already up to Leif Peterson.
Whew. Very early in the race, and Tinsey already probably needs a change of pants after that moment coming from turn 8.
Joe, you talked about in the pre-race, though, that patience is an important thing here. Maybe a little bit most important for the HPT guys.
Very much so, and already a second lost as Ulmer has cut the gap down to about 2.5 seconds behind Tinsey as he tries to squirt his way through the GT3s.
And Jimbo Pfeiffer has just put his prototype in the wall. Got off on the grass and couldn't straighten it out.
There we can see the nose missing on that car. Let's see if we can pull up the replay on that. This is not the entry for Pfeiffer that he was hoping for. Let's pull it up now. Where was this? Looks like maybe up onto the front stretch here. He gets caught up in some traffic in turns 1 and 2, potentially.
I think it's this corner coming up right here. Let's see if he...
Oh, and guys, we've got a couple other issues. We got Ulmer off in the grass.
Ooh, already, and it wasn't a Clayton for Pfeiffer. Let's go to Ulmer. And Ulmer is heading into the pits.
Self-looped. Yeah, he just lost it on his own, turned it back into the wall, overcorrected and brought it back into the wall.
Bill, I don't think you even need to bring the phrase out.
Yeah, it's... I would have thought of a better phrase if I knew I was going to have to use it so often.
And to make matters worse for Kevin Santana, he was off in the same corner just when he dipped a wheel off and turned 8. Looped it around, went into the tire barrier once again. I think, yes, Kevin Santana has manually disconnected. He's elected to give the day up.
We got some bad news there for a couple of those prototype guys, but good news right now. I believe I just saw Tinsey get through the last of the GT3s now with a little bit of clean air.
And in fact, the gap between Tinsey and second place, Tim McLeish, is 10 seconds. And P3's got a battle. That's between Slavonic and Ponik. Slavonic takes it. Ponik was very slow on the straight. He had Mark Wilson coming up behind him too. I'm not sure what happened there. And I'm seeing on my screen he's missing a nose. And he is there on the broadcast as well. Ponik heading into the pits. He must have made contact with something or someone.
Man, what an up and down deal for the prototypes right now. I'm not really sure who's going to be getting second here.
Oh, and contact on screen. Mark Wilson, and is that Matt Quinn? Between two prototypes. Also, a side report. Ponik ran into the back of a roof coming through Clayton.
Yeah, it was David Henry. And David Henry actually got punted right off the course.
Whew. We expected a bit of chaos here today, but we are only 8 minutes into this race. We've had a number of cars make contact, a number of cars have offs, and wow, I said attrition would play a factor, and it certainly seems to be ringing true.
Yeah, except for it seems to be ringing true in just one class, and that's prototypes. These guys are having a heck of a time so far.
Well, Bill, you said there was 13 of them there today, which is somewhat of a big field for the prototypes. And
not anymore.
Yeah. The herd has thinned.
Let's take a quick look. We haven't talked about GTLM for a while. There's a pretty good battle going on here. Schuster and Gerard, and hanging right with him is Dino Topic. Nice to see Dino up there. So 1, 2, 3, all within about a second and a half.
Absolutely. We're always enjoying seeing Gerard and Schuster duke it out on track, and looks like they're going to give us yet another round. There you can see Gerard in the tan-colored Aston Martin just behind the gray Corvette of Schuster leading the way. And just behind that, Topic and the other gray and blue Corvette, keeping them very much in check. And how about a quick shout out to Billy Smith? Took his first podium, I believe it was?
Yep. Starting to get the feel for the car now, I think.
Back at Road America, that was the last round. Maybe he's a little bit like Ulmer, likes these North American tracks.
And, well, Joe, what have we been racing here? About 10 minutes? Tinsley has a 17-second lead on his nearest competitor.
Oh, my goodness. That is absolutely unreal. Now, let's take a step back, though, to Tim McLeish in second, who has that hill to climb there. He is our AM leader in the points, and a second place, a podium finish. He's had one before, remember, the first round at Spa, but another one will certainly do his chance as well. He's all the way up in fourth overall in the points. He's been having a great season. I wonder if they're going to try and up him to the pro class after this season is done. Meanwhile, sounds like something's going on in the GT3s. What have you got, Smitty?
Well, actually, there's not a whole lot of fighting going on for position. There is fighting, however, for real estate. With the prototypes working their way through, maybe the most aggressive we've seen the prototypes ever in this series right now. These guys are just slicing and dicing with not a whole lot of care, it seems, for who's next to them. These GT3 guys are really having to try hard to keep it on the black stuff. Pretty spread out with the exception of Robbie Morrison, currently third in class. He's got Paul Lindsay fairly close. The ebb and flow in the accordion's happening a good amount, though, with the traffic. Right now, out front's Kane. He's got a pretty good advantage over Castro. It's all about the traffic right now and how these guys are able to get through, or how, I should say, they're able to stay on track when these other guys are slicing through.
And interestingly, I'm looking back at Darling to see what his progress is, and he is still stuck behind the cars of Lindsay and Morrison. So there, as we ride on board with Paul, you can see he is still fifth in class in the GT3s. He is going to want to try and hustle here soon so that he can hold on to Dexter Castro before he starts to get away from him.
Well, yeah, as you say, you just got to try to hustle and try to stay with him. I think one of the things that we've seen all season long is that traffic is being, a big part of what goes on in GT3. And it's not them passing, it's them being passed. As we look at Castro on scene right now, he's got a little bit of a gap that he needs to make up. It's just these guys, they start to battle, they start to get close, and then boom, here comes traffic. And the prototypes are able to make some things happen pretty quick. It's going to be interesting to see what happens once GTLM starts cutting through, which they're not very far behind.
And, Castro was worried about that with the GTLM class. They don't have a lot of difference in cornering speed to the GT3s. They only have one place on track, really, where they can try and get by, and that's the Andretti Straight.
Well, yeah, and you look at the difference. There's only about 3 seconds difference between pole sitters and classes there. 3 seconds on this short of a track may seem like a lot, but with its twisty nature, it's not much at all.
As we ride on board Castro, he just got passed by Wilson. Now he's got Ulmer trying to work his way by. Gets past clean before Clayton. And that gap between Castro and Kane at the moment is just under 3 seconds. Kane has been slowly but surely building up that lead. And you can see Kane being passed by both Ulmer and Wilson as well. And Ulmer's progress, if you were curious, since his early off, he is up to 8th, and if he can overtake Wilson, which it looks like he's going to try and do down the Andretti Straight, he'll be able to reach the heights of 7th.
Speaking of which, the Andretti Straight, if we could take a look at P3, Robbie Morrison coming under fire here. Might have a Lindsay move at the end. Lindsay to his side. He's on the wrong side here for the right-hander.
Yeah, it's tough to make it around the outside, but it is possible, and you can see Lindsay's still trying. I don't know about your experience in the GT3s around here, Smitty, but I know from mine in other cars, sometimes if you can hold around the outside, you can maybe sneak it up the inside of that left-hander.
Yeah, certainly. If you get the timing right, it's something that's doable. It's just that change in direction can be real tough.
Undoubtedly, as we ride aboard the Vodafone BMW of Lindsay, looking at the rear spoiler of Morrison, still down through Clayton into the braking zone of turn 3, Quebec. And Bill's noticed something with Tinsley. Yeah, what's going on up there?
Tinsley's got a beehive of a pinata full of bees in front of him here. He's going around O'Keefe right now, and he's coming up on the top 3 GTLM, and he's going right around Topich right now. Now he's got to try to get around...
Whoa! Tinsley is off!
There it
just
is.
put his
Save
wheels
it.
off into the grass. He's managed to save it, though. Woo. How many pairs of pants do you think he has in that?
Oh, my spidey senses were tingling there. I could just see the trouble coming. Now he was able to keep it. He's not out of trouble yet. He's got Topich to get around one more time now, and then he's got the leaders of the GTLM. And the GTLM guys are coming up on the back of the GT3s. It's really a mess up here.
We watched the replay. There looks like there was a little bit of marbles building up on the track. I wonder if that came into play. Meanwhile, let's go to GT3. Smitty, you got a big story there.
Yes, P2 driver Dexter Castro just had his own self-spin. Oh, man, just when he thought it might be going a little bit better for him. Now look at it on the replay here.
Down through turn 4. Very scary downhill sweeper. Up into Moss. You let the rear end just get around from him. Oh, touched the gravel on the outside. That was all she wrote before he just saved it off that wall.
Indeed. Good news, no wall. Bad news, 3 spots lost. He is now behind Darling, and just like that, the shoe don't fit.
Oh, how racing can turn on a dime. You need perfection to be a champion, and Castro is learning that. He's been talking about how perfect Paul Darling has been. He had a bit of an issue at Road America, although part of that wasn't his fault, as he had a car run into him coming through Canada Corner. Let's see if he can maybe make up for that today.
And guys, actually even bigger news perhaps in GT3. Our leader, Danny Kane, disconnected and now back in.
Woo. And for those not familiar with sim racing, disconnects happen when your internet is not good enough and your car blinks out and leaves the server. We a lot of times compare it to having mechanical gremlins or electrical gremlins in a real race, something you just can't control. There we see our new leader, Robbie Morrison.
Exactly. We talk about issues for other people. They gift somebody something. Well, today it's Robbie Morrison, and just like that, in one lap, he goes from 3rd to 1st and leading the train. Robbie Morrison, right now, your leader in GT3.
Boy, you talk about a hungry driver. Morrison is wanting that maiden win in this series. We talked to him post-race a little bit earlier when he was very close a few rounds previously. If he can just keep it together right now, Morrison's got a gap of about 1.5 seconds over Lindsay, and he is going to want to keep that, who is actually under threat. Lindsay's got Darling closing in at a high rate of knots, looking to the outside, coming up into 8. Can he hold on to it on the outside?
We saw Lindsay try the same thing on Morrison. Now it is Darling's turn. He's got the better advantage.
He's got the inside as it switched lefts, but now into white corner. He dips a wheel off into the grass. Darling goes wide. He keeps it out of the tire barrier, but now it swings back to Dexter Castro.
Wow, we talk about how things are changing. That is where you can go from trying to gain a position to losing more than you were trying to gain. Big change right now in GT3.
Oh, and Castro has got to be breathing a sigh of relief watching that happening right in front of him. Boy, we've seen some exciting races, but this one is just, we're not even 20 minutes in, but let's go over to Kelly, and I believe that is in the HPD class. Here you can see he's in 6th. We're going to look at the replay. Bill, did you happen to catch what happened here?
These guys are going through a lot of, you can see it right there, he got a little bit loose, but as able to come back out, he pulled out right behind now. He's back in the hunt behind Slavonic, still in 6th position. But it's chaos up here for these prototypes to get through this. Because what's happening now, Joe, is they're not only running on they're trying to get around not only the GTLMs, but the GT3s. They're trying to time it. It's something to watch. We'll see if we can find a spot for you here when the acceptance picks up again.
Yeah, I was going to say, these guys will probably want to go out and buy a Duncan after this because the way these things are yo-yoing back and forth. Tinsey, when he went off, it was under 10 seconds, the gap. Now between him and McLeish, it's back up to 17.5. So there is just no time to rest and no time to take your eye off their F3 box.
Maybe we can touch on GTLM real quick. We haven't talked about them a little bit. Schuster has pulled out about a 2.5 second lead over Gerard. Really, it's mostly traffic as we're looking at Schuster right now. Around Gerard, there's go up to Schuster here. He's about to go around the slower car, Brett Trozine. As he
Wow. Yeah, Schuster really carried his momentum off that corner. Had to make a wild dive around Trocine. who I think wasn't expecting him to come that fast, but he managed to get it done. So now Schuster's got a bit of a gap between himself and Gerard in the shape of Trozine.
I'll tell you what, they decide to come back to this track next season. They may want to get sponsorship from Fruit of the Loom. This is unbelievable, the amount of issues that people are having. The offs, the ons, the ebb and flow. Insane. We're not even halfway through this thing.
It's certainly exciting from up here. I'm sure it's twice as exciting from inside the cars down there as we switch to Billy Smith, who's managed to get up to 4th. He's got Binkley very close behind him, though. In fact, Billy didn't climb up to 4th. I believe he started at 4th, if I remember correctly.
There you see he started ahead of Binkley, so he still has that position there. A lot of clean track ahead of him. And clean track behind him.
In fact, next up is Dino Topic, who's actually got an HPD in front of him, which is changing now to Brett Trocine. So those guys have a little bit of a gap, as you said, of clear track just to try and focus on racing the car ahead and not all the traffic around them. They were watching Dino, who's holding the podium position at the moment. Dino working his way past Trocine now. Sounds like the prototypes have got quite a battle going on for 6th. Let's take a glance up there. And wow, a lot of them together. And they've got traffic around. That's Kelly in 6th currently. Wilson trying to take it away from him. And, excuse me, Kelly is in 5th. And then Ponik in 7th, trying to make up for lost time. Kelly and Wilson able to get by Brandon Postma. Meanwhile, we jump back to Slavonic sitting in 9th, who looks like he was overtaken by Ulmer.
Yeah, Ulmer just got around him, and he's now going to get around one more lap car here.
He's got Joe Wren next up. It's Mark Schindel in the Corvette he just went by. Wow, did something happen to Schuster? He's down in the order. He is in his pit stall. This might be scheduled. We've got to...
No. He had a spin.
Oh.
Wasn't that far back.
And that was once again, and Clayton just ever so slightly touched the grass and actually...
Got both sides of the car.
Yeah.
Got the inside, then he bounced off from the outside.
Now watch Tim McLeish behind him in the prototype. He's looking to lap him here. If we can double back on this replay after this and watch from McLeish's view. Woo-hoo. This is going to be even more exciting for McLeish. This is not what you want to see when you're trying to lap a GTLM car. Here we are on board on his roll bar. Car slides to the inside and back across his nose and just barely misses it.
And as that's going on right now, we've got pit stop starting to happen with GT3. Both our leader Morrison and Castro in, now getting ready to head back out. Not much between them. Morrison had the advantage, but Castro not very far behind now.
And we don't have to go to this, but significantly, Schuster hitting the wall will hand the lead to Jason Gerard, his direct opponent in the GTLM Championship.
Yeah, and Schuster took a toe, so that's really gonna hurt him. He's gonna fall way back in the standings.
That'll be 3 races in a row that bad things have befallen Troy Schuster. Boy, Gerard, for those who didn't watch last season in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge, he came in halfway through in the prototypes and really showed what he was made of, taking wins and fighting almost every race for that P1 position. He has switched over seamlessly to these GTLMs, and it seems like nothing can shake him. He has been practically unflappable all season.
What's that going to do with Gerard in first? That puts Topic and Billy Smith now looking for his second podium. Smith takes over 3rd spot.
It's good to see Smith back up towards the front. We kept wondering when he was going to be able to get on terms with this car, as he's being lapped.
He's got his handful right now. He's got Poddick coming around and then there's Binkley right behind him. That's a battle for position there.
Yeah, he's going to want to hold on to that podium, not want to give it up to Binkley, who used to be very strong in the Corvette, but has switched over to the Aston Martin. And from what I understand, he's expressed that he's not as confident in that car. But they get a penalty if they switch makes halfway through the season, so Binkley has stuck with it.
I think we asked him about that. I think he's driving it for other team reasons, that the team he's on is driving it elsewhere, so he's getting comfortable with it. And here comes the prototype there. Whoa! Oh, he lost it.
Chance Kelly holding on.
Save a chance.
Chance gets a number of chances to get it pointed forward. Unfortunately, comes to a halt sideways on the track. I'm going to watch the replay. What angle are we going to see this from? Because there's a number of we could watch this. Onboard Kelly just tries to sneak it in of Binkley. He gets one. Thinks maybe I can get two, and it's a little too late. Runs out of track. Doesn't touch anything. Thankfully, Binkley doesn't run into him.
And then he got real lucky as that car came back out on the track and there was nobody there.
Whew, yeah. That moves Chance Kelly back down into 7th. And even though it's not for the lead, that battle is back on between Castro and Darling.
Yeah, things are heating up. They actually just got around Peterson. Peterson has yet to pit. Both Castro and Darling have. And Darling just about had a shot at Castro when they got around Peterson at the end of the Mario Andretti straight. Now a little bit of time lost to Darling, but he is hungry and trying to get it back.
There you see Darling being lapped by the HPD of John O'Day. Going to put himself between Darling and Castro just for a moment here through Moss. Now he's going to get a chance to accelerate away. Looks like he actually even may have held up Darling slightly through the exit of Moss. Compromised his exit.
And we don't need to go to it, but just in front of these guys, to a GTLM update one more time. Troy Schuster not having the best of days. He was off and on again there in the Moss corner.
Certainly going to be one to forget for Troy Schuster, undoubtedly.
It looks like Ulmer has brought it in the pits. I don't see why. I don't see any contact from him, but he's just sitting in there, so maybe he's calling it a day.
Sad to see Ulmer lose more points today. That means he's going to not only lose out to Tinsey, but also to Quinn, who is now ahead of him in the points. I'm wondering if we might not see not Tinsey, but Ulmer in the top 3 come the end of the season if this keeps up. And look at this battle on track for 3rd in the prototypes, though. Excuse me, for 2nd, actually.
Yeah, it's McLeish in 2nd and Quinn. Now, Quinn had a great qualifying time, but actually he qualified behind McLeish, who was really fast, really fast for him. Quinn fell back early and is now picked up back into the hunt here, so this is a good battle. Oh, he's going to... Look at that.
Whoa! A little bit of contact there coming through Moss, and that is really going to hurt Quinn, because I have to imagine with these extended corners that any little dent to your bodywork in the HPDs is just going to make it a handful.
Yeah, McLeish really did not do a good job there going through Moss, and Quinn gobbled him up too much, took too big a bite.
I want to give a nod to McLeish too. You see the yellow wing end plates there. He is one of the AM drivers, currently 2nd overall. Great day for Tim.
Boy, I was thinking earlier that he's been just a steady rock in the way that he's picked up places when everybody falls by the wayside, and it's proven itself true once again. Let's go to Schuster. Sounds like he's spun once more. I'm not sure if this is separate from what you reported on in Moss earlier. Yeah, looks like it is.
Yeah, this is once again, man, it's just, I don't know if he's trying to find a little bit more to salvage everything he can, but this time it's going off into turn number 1. As you can see here, thing just loops around on him like too much rear bias.
And he made contact with the inside wall. That's not often that people touch that wall. Highly unusual. And Gerard is in for his pit stop. This looks like it's scheduled.
Topich is in the grass. He's our leader, and he just put it in the grass right now. He's brought it back out. It looks like he didn't lose much time.
Temporary leader, we should say, since he has yet to stop. We're going to look at the replay here. Did he have some help from the prototype?
Yeah, that was
Ooh,
Ren. I don't think so, but it scared him.
Ooh. Oh, it looks like there was contact. And Topic, very lucky to keep it out of that tire barrier.
He had just inherited the lead.
Well, I bet our director's wishing that he's paid by the replay here today, because he's certainly showing plenty of them. And Chance Kelly was getting on the radio as he came up to Kevin Binkley and said, "I'm trying it again." This time he made it back past successfully. He's waiting between Binkley and Smith. And Smith gives him a little bit.
Oh, no!
Smith in front of him! Runs into him! Smith was trying to head into the pits and took a little bit too much speed. Unbelievable!
It almost looked like it was a last-minute decision from Smith there. He just couldn't get it wound up.
Watching from onboard, Kelly, I'm sure at first it was like, "Go, great, he's getting out of the way," and then suddenly, there he is again.
And there was nowhere for Kelly to go there.
Oh, yeah. He was completely innocent in that one. Watching it from the chopper view. And Billy Smith about to join the chopper, getting airborne. You know, that was one of those things, Bill, that I was thinking maybe we should mention. The pit entry requires a little bit of practice. Obviously, I should have brought it forward in the pre-race.
I think Smitty called it. I think Billy Smith decided, I've been here before. I've seen what happens when Chance goes around me. I'll make it easy on him. And didn't work out.
Oh, man.
Poor Chance Kelly.
Either Chance gets it wrong or everybody else around him gets it wrong.
And who was that who squeaked by? Was that Binkley who was able to get through there without contact? That was a close one for him, too.
Yeah. Twice he's able to get past Chance Kelly, but let's go up to P3 in the prototypes. Mark Ponick, he made a mistake early on. We thought he lost his opportunity, but he's back on the podium trying to hold off David Tejada. Not one we're used to seeing fighting for a podium position, actually.
And Mark Wilson back there is also in that hunt.
What a bizarre race.
You have a three-car battle there. You have Ponick, then Tejada, and then back, just trying to get around that lap car there of Castro. That's Dexter Castro. Oh, and
Castro makes contact.
That's Wilson got into him.
Wilson tried to sneak that one in there a little bit too late. There we see Castro trying to return to the track. Boy, there's going to be a talk post-race, I think, about drivers attempting moves where maybe they shouldn't have. Last second, dives it up the inside. Castro not expecting him to take the right.
That's going to be an unhappy Castro, to say it lightly.
Glad we can't hear his radio right now.
And he was where he wanted to be. He was, not at the front, but at least he was ahead of Darling, I think, at that time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Now, the question is, he got hit on the side. Hopefully, he didn't get suspension damage from that.
I think he got kind of like spatula there, the car dipped right under him.
Oof. So Dexter Castro definitely not needing to make a visit to Spatula City for all his spatula needs. In fact, I'm sure he's going to be avoiding it now.
A real bad thing for him is he was actually doing a little bit at a time, but catching Morrison in the process. That all but wipes out those chances, unfortunately, for him.
Okay, Topic has come into pit for the GTLMs, and that's turned it over to Binkley as our new leader in that, but he still needs to come in.
Well, I would say let's go through the order to update our viewers to see where everyone is, but I have a feeling it's going to change as soon as we start reading it down. You can see Robert Tinsley is still our overall leader in the prototypes, and I don't think he has to worry too much about trying to make crazy moves. He's got a 55-second lead over second place Mark Ponick. Oh, but we're hearing he has yet to pit, so that counts for some of it.
I still think that's probably pretty close to right.
Probably going to be at least 30 seconds, I'm guessing. Wow.
Okay, here's a real beehive. Let's go back to Matt Quinn in third position in the prototypes. Maybe drop a little bit back. Maybe we're going to look at this Ren here. Ren and McLeish are in a battle. Is that for position? No, it's not. Sorry. Ren's a lap down.
Ren's trying to make his way past Mark Schindel. And the GTLM class
It's going to be
looks a
exciting.
little unsteady there.
Even though he's a lap down, it's going to be exciting nonetheless because there's McLeish in that car right there. Is going to try to get around both those guys.
McLeish does not want to wait around, but he doesn't dive up the inside into turn one. Oh, and this is holding up McLeish something fierce. Oh, Ren really getting gutsy on trying to pull some moves here, but backs out of it on the inside of Schindel through Clayton. Once again, not trying to get by on the inside of Quebec either. Come on, Joe. We got the GTLM, sneaks by on the outside of 4, finally, before Moss. They got a car off in front of them. Who was that? Is that Brett Trocine I saw?
Give a shout out to Dave Hill, who just come into pit. Why am I talking about Dave Hill? Well, he had inherited the lead in the GTLMs. So he's, I think, the last GTLM to pit now, so that's all going to sort out.
Okay, I may have overestimated thing on the prototypes. Robert Tinsley is in and out of the pits. What I thought was going to be a huge gap is actually only 5 seconds between himself and Ponik. So the traffic must be holding up Tinsley quite a bit.
Yeah, that seems unusual because he was well out there. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'll see if I can go back and see if Tinsley had some trouble.
Could be, or it could be that he's simply not... He could be very cautious with his interclass traffic.
Big moment, guys. McLeish is in it. We've got 3 different cars in a wreck.
Whoa! This is in Clayton Corner.
Just
Let's
before
look at the
turn
replay.
2.
So what happened here? Here comes McLeish. Oh, did he run into Ren there? Then Schindel got into him.
That's
Then it
Paul
looks
Darling
like
squeaking
Trocine
through
comes along.
Castro.
Castro gets him. Oh my goodness. And Castro took a huge tumble. That could be his day over, although he might have a spare car still. We're going to see how this all kicks off. Oh, 3 wide down the front stretch. That was already hairy. And he's still trying to lap Ren. Looks to the outside, 3 wide situation. Ren tries to dive with that car that was on the inside. Did not know that he was going to be there. And was Castro one-sided there? How did he run so quickly into him?
I'd love to go on board with the Darling there who somehow made it through. Unbelievable.
We're going to look right here from Darling's view, who was just... Was he behind Castro there, or was he ahead of him?
It's like the seas part and he's able to shoot the gap.
Sometimes it happens. You get the Days of Thunder moment, where the smoke just clears and you manage to make it through. Here we are on board. Starts to erupt. He literally had no time to react, just made a little bob right and everything worked perfect.
What a crazy race.
Well, Castro's going to have to go to Darling after this race and ask to borrow maybe the rabbit's foot he had tucked in his pocket or something there. Because everything has been going wrong for Castro, and everything seems to be going right for Darling in the meantime.
You want to talk about everything going right? How about Robbie Morrison right now? Your leader in GT3, still looking for that first win, and I'll tell you what. So it's I should say lead. It's actually lead after pit stops that will going to happen. Fleming still has to make a stop. He's enjoying the lead official, but he'll lose it after Morrison makes his pit stop. Excuse me, after Fleming makes pit stop, we'll go to Morrison.
And guys, something's fishy in Denmark here because Tinsley is now, or I guess in prototype land at least, Tinsley's only up by about 2.5 seconds. Ponik is flying, or Tinsley is struggling. I'll see if I can do lap times and see if Tinsley is slowing down.
And did you manage to find anything that happened to him?
No, I didn't. I can't see what it is, but I'm going to
This
keep
is
looking, though, because he was
really
well out in
interesting.
front.
Now, haven't
Man.
we seen this before from him? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's had big leads that get shrunk at the end quite a few times, hasn't he?
Well, if I recall, at Road America, he had some damage on his car, and that caused him to have to slow up towards the end. And I think he had the same problem at Motegi in the previous round, too, actually. Meanwhile, let's jump over the GTLMs. Gerard is into the wall. And this is... Let's see, where is this over in Clayton? It's just on the entry to Clayton. That has been a corner to claim many a car this race. What happened here?
He just got loose. He was getting Chance Kelly. Poor Chance Kelly was going around him.
Absolutely nobody is safe today.
He was your leader. He was the leader now, so I think that's going to be... I think Dino Topic is going to get that lead back in. Topic goes around him.
Offline. And this will be, if Topic can bring this home, this will be his second win of the series. He took his first one last season.
Okay, Topic has about a 6-second lead on Gerard, who's tucked into second. But we got to keep an eye on... I went back and looked at Tinsley's lap times. They all seemed relatively normal, but now it's almost down to 2 seconds between him and Ponick.
Boy, Smitty, you were saying if this track is going to be on the schedule next season, I highly doubt it will be.
Well, not now, is it? I don't think anybody's going to put their hand up saying, yes, please, Mosport.
Also, we had something about Billy Smith. Was that from previously, or? So something may have happened to Billy Smith. We're not sure. Meanwhile, we're looking at Kevin Binkley sitting in second now in the GTLM class.
And we don't need to go to it, but just a recap there for the GT3. It is now Morrison in the lead, Darling second, and Lindsay third, with Fleming making his pit stop.
Smitty, I don't even want to talk about the job that Morrison is doing here today. I think we'll keep the cameras off him as much as we can. Number 32 for WFO, you can see, currently in P1. After quite a few cars around him falling by the wayside. And there you can see our overall leader coming up behind him, Robert Tinsey. That gap now at about 3 seconds. Bill, have you had a chance to look at the lap times and all this craziness, or have you been pulled elsewhere?
No, I've been doing it. Tinsey's just running a little slower than he started off, but nothing really scary. Ponick running about equal lap times with him.
Which makes sense from our qualifying times. If you remember, Ponick almost had the pole. It was the very last lap that Tinsey was able to pip him, so this might just be raw pace. Ponick might just be fast today. There we're watching the Team OFW driver trying to cruise up to the back of Tinsey, who's actually being held up by traffic. He just got by past Matt Owens. Now he's got Jason Gerard heading up the Andretti Straight. There you can see just in the background, Ponick is lurking. He's got 17 minutes. He could still run him down. I would not put anything past these drivers in this race. Oh, and Ponick heads into the pits.
I think maybe that explains it. Maybe Ponick, I'm not sure, maybe he had a pit stop
he's
to
had
make.
A stop. Ponick had a very short stop, we're hearing.
So maybe he missed his fuel, confused his fueling, and that's maybe why he got all that time.
Now, this allows Matt Quinn up into second. So Quinn, who is in second in the championship points at the moment, should help consolidate his place there if he can hold on to this.
That had to have Tinsey confused. I mean, I'm able to go and look at lap times to try to figure out White Ponic was up there. Tinsey's got to be saying, "Where the hell did Ponic come from?"
Well, that explains why we were confused as well.
Yeah,
I don't want to take away from Ponic. His speed in the qualifying and even in practice was impressive.
I'm going to just assume that he came in and short fueled by mistake, and that's why he was so close.
Could have been the case as we watch from above around Moss Corner. He's trying to put a lap on Chance Kelly as well as Christopher Sherburne in the GT3 class. Kelly's had quite a few adventures of his own. He's letting Ponic know he can lap him on the inside here in this corner as he dives through. Oh, and let's jump over to Jimbo Pfeiffer. Thought his day was going to be done a little bit earlier, but he's back out and he had it off at Moss Corner. I think he managed to keep it out of the wall. It's very close. I think pit stops are done, although we can't be sure the way things have been going, Bill. So why don't we go through the order just to give people a picture of where everybody sits. Up at the top of prototypes, Robert Tinsey leads the way with about 20 seconds over Matt Quinn. Mark Ponic is still on the podium despite a second stop, and he is just ahead, well, not just ahead, about 30 seconds ahead of Paul Slavonic, who sits in fourth. Then Chance Kelly, despite having a couple adventures, including plowing into the back of Billy Smith, is sitting in fifth. What's the top five in the prototypes looking like, Bill? Or excuse me, the GTLM.
Well, it's Dino Topic, but right now he is being gobbled up by Binkley. I think I'll have to look to see what happened to Topic because he's running really slow laps. Keep an eye here on Binkley if Binkley's not going to be able to get him here pretty soon.
Meanwhile, in third, it looks like Dave Hill in the GTLM class holding that podium spot. And I'm trying to figure out, David Sockrider looks to be in fourth, and Jason Gerard, after his issues, has slipped down to fifth. In fact, he's about to take that fourth position away from Sockrider down the Andretti Straight.
And my apologies, my timing and scoring was a little goofy there. It was giving me the times of another class. So Topic is comfortably out in front there by 6.5 seconds. That makes more sense over Binkley.
Round the outside, through turn 8 into the S's, and I think Gerard's got it. Trying to recover from that mistake, which is one of the rare ones that we see from Gerard in this series. Meanwhile, let's go back to the GT3s. What are your top five down there, if you can make sense of that, Smitty?
Right now you do have Robbie Morrison leading the way. It's been pretty much the Morrison show here ever since the beginning when we had the issues with the front two guys. He's been smooth and consistent. He is leading. Second place right now is Paul Darling. Darling is actually chipping away a little bit at the advantage that Morrison holds, but it is ebb and flow with the advantage Morrison still of a pretty good amount. Back to third is Patrick Fleming. He had his moment in the sun earlier. Paul Lindsay. Paul Lindsay, he was in the lead much earlier before making his stop and falling back to third. After Lindsay, then you have Fleming, who is our most recent leader, pitting very late. And then a little bit further back, Leif Peterson just graduated up into the fifth spot in class after Jim McInnes made his pit stop and is now back in sixth.
Whew. So, now that we managed to get that out of the way, with only, I believe, one position change in the midst of it, that's your order with about 11 minutes to go. But let's go over to Dave Hill. Bill, have you noticed something about him?
No, I've noticed something that he's having a really good race, and I just wanted to make sure we gave him a little screen time. He's currently running in a podium position up here in the GTLM's class, all by himself. Sometimes when you're like a B- student, you don't get a lot of attention, but you don't cause any trouble. Nice race from Dave Hill. Good job, buddy.
I wish B-minuses would get me praise when I was in school.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
You gotta be careful with the praise around here. One thing we know about the Autobahn series is not over until you actually get across the line.
Very true, and today it's been proving to be the case time and time again. I think that guys have stuff wrapped up, everything looks solid, and then suddenly it all just flips around on us. Traffic being probably the biggest factor in all that, and plus drivers making mistakes. This is a tough course, and that, I think, comes down to that old school nature once again. Just, it's not forgiving, it's very technical. This track has no patience for mistakes.
Well, we've seen it there in in the second corner there in Clayton, where you can just barely go off and it's game over. I know a lot of guys would be praying for that paved runoff. It's just not the case for the current iRacing version.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a few letters from drivers in this series begging them to update that scan. Meanwhile, we're looking at a battle here for 5th place. Leif Peterson trying to hold off Jim McInnes, another driver who recently got his first podium in a long time. In fact, his first one this season was at Road Atlanta after he was never off the podium the entirety of last season.
Actually, McInnes, he was just
Paul
come out
Lindsay
of the pit,
Paul Lindsay just put it in the wall.
That is in the GT3 class. He was in the 3rd position, was he?
Correct. That is a podium spot that he is in danger of losing here, depending on how much damage on that ride.
He's got Darren Kuhn behind him. Excuse me, no. Wait. Oh, we're looking at replay. Sorry, I was confused for a moment. And off in turn 1 in a big way. Now, I think he's going to try, from what I'm looking at, it looks like he's going to try and keep it out on course. Here down into turn 1, I think. Oh, looks like he just got a little bit of oversteer and overcorrected. He's missing his hood. He went solidly into the side with those tire barriers. Is he going to come in for repairs? It's a little late in the game for that, I think. And he does. Which is definitely going to relinquish 3rd.
Yeah, and speaking of which, Fleming actually coming onto the start-finish straight now and takes it. Right now, we got a new 3rd place onto the podium is Fleming.
And I'm sure Fleming is not going to turn that one down. You don't wish ill on your competitors, but whenever you can gain a position, doesn't matter how it's done, it's a position, and in this case, a podium one for Patrick Fleming. If he can hold on for 8 more minutes.
Yeah, when we had that happen, we actually pulled away from the battle that is right now for 4th and 5th. It's going to be 5th and 6th, but I think they're going to actually graduate to 4th and 5th. They do indeed. Peterson 4th, McInnes right on the back bumper there. These guys are making things happen just off the podium.
Oh, and a look to the inside down into Clayton. It's a very dangerous place to go side by side, but thankfully McInnes backs out of it, and he knows better.
Well, it's almost worse for the guy who's trying to pass, give the room. Here goes to the inside. Yes, he is side by side, coming off the corner.
A little bit out into the marbles for Leif Peterson, and he's not able to hold on to the position. Beautiful move by McInnes.
Putting the pressure on, putting the thing in the right spot. It's not over yet. Got to keep the pedal down. Start heading up, maybe get another podium spot.
Now, as that has been going on, I understand that the gap between Topic and Binkley may have been falling. Bill, have you been keeping an eye on that?
No, I think it's about 7 seconds. We're okay. That's about where it is. Topic got there comfortably running. I think our timing and scoring on Topic is a little goofy sometimes, so.
Ah, it's a false alarm. And you can see our leader in the GTLM class.
Fooled me too. About 7 seconds back to Binkley.
Watching Binkley now. Up into 2nd place in GTLM. It's been a while since Binkley's had a win, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get one today. I think Topic looks really comfortable out there.
Now about 7 minutes to go. Man, this has not felt like a sprint race with all that has been going on. I'm almost exhausted calling it. These 60 minutes have had a lot of action here today in round 9. Don't think it's quite over yet either, because the gap in GT3 is starting to narrow, and it's only 2 seconds between Morrison and Darling.
Yeah, Joe, I've been watching that gap. It is slowly coming down. I almost didn't want to say anything. I don't want to jinx anything for these two drivers. Darling has had a heck of a day already. Morrison a little bit smoother. I hope it just comes down to a good fight if it does at the end.
Morrison works his way past traffic. Mark Schindel in the Corvette letting him through. Now gapping himself and Darling.
Good sportsmanship from Schindel. They're moving over for Darling.
Knows he's got no race to run with somebody else at the moment. Might as well keep out of these guys' way if they've got the pace over him.
Yeah, that last time by, guys, Darling takes a half a second out of the lead. This one's going to be close.
This could be the fight to watch here at the end of this race.
Now he's got Matt Quinn in the prototype coming up. Quinn's running in second position right now. Gets around Darling without a problem.
And I think he's going to catch Morrison at the perfect spot, which is the Andretti straight. So shouldn't really trip over him too badly.
I know it's pretty much old news at this point, but watching the race on my screen from the over-the-top view, you can really see the rubber laid down. The new track model is pretty dang cool.
Yeah, with these corners really being mostly high speed, I have to imagine that they are laying a lot of rubber down. And putting quite a few marbles out, I'm sure. I know I've spotted a few of them.
Now there goes David Tejeda running 9th in the prototypes. He got around Darling.
He's in a bad place to try and catch Morrison here. What's Morrison going to do? Holds to the left side of the track. Ooh, just manages to get by before Clayton. Morrison doesn't have to take too awkward of a line.
And now here comes Brandon Postma in the Aston Martin getting around Darling. That kind of hurt Darling's corner there.
Darling way wide, and he's off into the grass.
Yep.
Keeps it out of the tire barrier.
Oh, you couldn't have fit a piece of paper between him and the tires. Man, that was close.
Gonna look at the replay on board the roof of Darling. And once again, I'm gonna blame those marbles, I think. It seems like anytime a car gets a little bit offline around here, it's almost guaranteed to send you off into the grass.
Yeah,
here we are on the...
gave him enough room, just no grip out there.
Yeah. See, yeah, he goes off a little bit wide, and the car just doesn't want to turn in. 2 wheels off, and it's like a vacuum. Just sucks you right out to the wall. Well, sigh of relief from Robbie Morrison as that gap is back up to 2 seconds now.
And they are running out of time. Probably only a couple laps here.
You know, that was really important for Darling to keep that car. I mean, he puts it in the tires, that his whole day has changed, you know?
That's a good point, Bill. Absolutely. Especially with his primary championship rival in Castro having obviously a terrible day with getting collected in that incident. He needs to, bank some points here.
I think he got a little bit lucky in that sense that so many guys have been having problems. Because Darling's had his own fair share today. He could have been down in a 7th position, 5th position, but being up in 2nd place is pretty darn good considering all that's gone on. Well, we've got about 1.5 minutes to go, which means probably about 2 laps left, I'm thinking. Tinsey still has a gap of about 15 seconds over Matt Quinn.
Dave Hill, who's running in 3rd place, has been managing this gap back to Gerard. Gerard's coming on him, but I don't think he's going to get there. The distance is about 3.5 seconds. It was about 6 seconds about 3-4 minutes ago. I just don't think Hill's going to run out of time here.
The Excelsior Racing white machine coming up to complete yet another lap. Could potentially be his last lap, actually, because coming up behind him is Robert Tinsey, who comes to the line with less than a minute to go, which means this should be the white flag lap.
Tinsey's got Castro to get around.
Wonder if Castro went in and got himself a spare car, because that looks fairly good for a car that's been tumbling over and over. And if the battle starts to break out, please break in, Smitty, for that GT3 lead.
Absolutely. Those guys are through the final few corners, so they will get one more shot at it.
Well, on up the Andretti straight now for Robert Tinsey. 3 more corners. Still has that 15-second lead. No need to push. Just has to bring it home. This will be win number 8. 2 more corners to go now. And Spa, he finished 5th. Ever since then, it's been number 1 all the way down the line as he puts a lap on Owens and wins here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Where's our other leaders?
Topic is just going into Moss right now, so he's a ways away.
And he's just ahead of our GT3 leaders, so we'll have to switch over to them pretty quick after this. Dino Topic. He's got 1 win under his belt. Today he may not have been the fastest, but he stayed out of trouble. I'm sure Dino is going to be glad for this one. Usually teased for whispering on air when he gets on TeamSpeak. I don't think he's going to be terribly quiet, giving a nice holler as he comes across the line to take the win in the GTLM class. Let's go back to GT3s. And there is not much between them, half a second, as Robbie Morrison takes a maiden win in GT3s. This is going to be a popular win, I think, for Robbie Morrison, who has had a long time coming, found the speed this season.
Smitty, Darling was coming, wasn't he?
It was not far from it. There was one prototype that passed Morrison at the end. I'm sure he was like in tears that happened, but no dice. Huge win for Morrison. Awesome for him.
Fantastic. Whew. Well, I think we need a much-deserved break here in the booth. Drivers are going to have a break, get their breath back as well. Then they're going to hopefully come up and give us some post-race interviews. Also, we're going to have the unofficial results, and on screen, don't go away, we've got the upcoming races here on the Global Sim Racing channel, so stick around. Well, I hope you're as rested as we are after that because it was a lot of excitement around Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for round 9 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge. And once again, Robert Tinsey takes win number 8 today in the prototype class and overall. Matt Quinn doing a great job. He's second in the championship, and he was second out there on track today. Mark Ponick, another one who's doing fantastic, and he grabs himself a podium out on the track. Paul Slavonic comes home in 4th, followed by Chance Kelly in 5th. Then it's John O'Day finishing in 6th, and John Ulmer, bad day at the office. He comes home in 7th. David Tejeda finishes in 8th, followed by Dino Topic, takes his second win of the series, wins on home ground here in Canada, and he'll be in 9th overall. Then it's Kevin Binkley finishing 2nd for the GTLM class. Bill?
11th overall, and on the lowest podium for the GTLM is Dave Hill. Nice run from him. Jason Girard behind him. Joe Wren in the Baker's Dozen spot in the prototypes. Jimbo Pfeiffer in 14th. David Sockrider behind him. All ribbons and curls was Brandon Posma. 17 is Robbie Morrison. Behind him, Paul Darling. 19th and 20th go to Robert Jackman and Patrick Fleming.
Robbie Morrison, the winner there in the GT3 class. Paul Lindsay, 21st. Jim McInnes, 22nd. Leif Peterson's 23rd. Kevin O'Keefe, quiet day. I actually didn't get a chance to say much about Rutgers Kev, 24th. Matt Owens, 25th. Dexter Castro, one to forget there in 26th. Derek Kuhn in 27th. Christopher Sherburne, 28th. And Robert Sklenka, 29th. With Sean Reese in the GTLM in 30th there, Joe.
31st goes to Mark Schindel. Then in 32nd, it's Brett Trocine. Mark Wilson finishes in 33rd, followed by Tim McLeish. Looked like it could have been a great day for him, but he was 34th. Billy Smith comes home 35th, another guy who's disappointed at what could have been. Then Sheldon Miloshin, didn't see a whole lot of him. He came home in 36th. Troy Schuster, another guy that let things slip out of his grasp today in 37th. Sheldon Rosenbaum, he had problems early on that we saw. He finished in 38th, followed by Danny Kame. Started on the pole. He was 39th overall, second to last of the GT3 cars, too. David Henry finishes in 40th, Kevin Santana in 41st, and Emmanuel Ierhe finished in 42nd. I probably botched that one. So we've got some interviews to do. First up, we've got our overall winner, Robert Tinsey. Let's pull him into the booth. And Robert, we've been talking so much, I feel like I know you. So how's the family doing, man?
Oh, they're just great, Joe. Thanks for asking.
Serious question for you. We had a bit of confusion up here in the booth partway through the race when we noticed that the gap after the pit stops between you and Ponick was down to about, I think it was something like 5 seconds. Were you caught out by that before it went back up, or what were you thinking?
Oh, yeah, I was completely as confused as you guys. I had no idea what he was doing there, and each lap I'm expecting him to go into the pit. I'm like, why is he not going in? And then I was going over the radio asking if he already pitted, and he didn't answer, so I just assumed he had his voice muted. So then finally when I saw him go in, I had a little sigh of relief. I figured out that he must have pitted a little bit early because he got damage, which I just went back and looked at the replay he did. So it made sense.
Yeah, in fact, that seems to be the case. We were both looking up at his number of pits and saw one, and we couldn't figure out how in the world he got the speed, although he did qualify very well. But on your race, you're now up to 8 wins. And up next, we are off to Watkins Glen, which once again, we go from a track that like Road America, which has very different aspects to this track, and back to something with a lot of straights and a lot of draft. Do you think things will be a little bit tighter there with guys maybe having the opportunity to be on your tail and use that slipstream there?
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, as you saw in this race, the qualifying was super tight. Those guys were super fast. I was very surprised. But I just kind of focused on just keeping it clean the whole time because I knew people would be taking themselves out. So that's what I hope for the upcoming races as well.
Yeah, in fact, you had a bit of a scary moment very early on when you first started lapping traffic into turn 8. Did you just not anticipate the closing speed there?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, they can. No matter how careful you are, you can get caught out very easily here.
Well, you managed to not get caught out, kept it on track, and took home P1 once again. Congratulations. Go celebrate for the 8th time this season, and we'll see you at Watkins Glen.
Sure will. Thanks a lot.
That was Robert Tinsey, our winner in the prototype class. Bill's going to have a lot more interesting interview, I believe, with our winner in the GTLM class, Dino Topic, winning on home ground. Bill?
Dino, I know the family's asleep. Can you hear me?
I hear you, Roger.
Hey, congratulations on your win. I'm going to top soft so we don't wake them up. Nice job, buddy. How do you feel?
Feels great. It definitely a good boost for our team because that's what we're all about, and feels really good winning on sort of a home ground, considering my actual home doesn't have any tracks. But it was an interesting race overall. Practices were all between me, Troy, and Gerard, like inching out thousands and thousands of a second out there, but I don't know. It was interesting.
Well, it opened up for you there when Schuster and Gerard went away. And then did you have any incidents with traffic that were scaring you?
I don't have enough fingers to name them all, but yeah, I feel a little bad for the guys ahead of me, especially Troy. But racing is racing. Traffic, well, I with Joe a little bit turn 2, but that was pretty minimal. The biggest issue was Moss corner where I overdrove the corner and kind of had a bit of aero damage, but otherwise no big issues, not too much.
Well, you got out front then and you kept the distance back to Binkley. Nice win. You had a nice qualifying time. We're happy here in the booth to have you win one, so congratulations.
Thank you, sir. And shout out to OFW and Mark and Paul on their finishes.
Dino Topic, your winner in the GTLM class. Joe?
Another really exciting interview that we're going to have here in a moment for Robbie Morrison getting his maiden win, and Smitty has caught up with him.
Robbie, it's a W, my friend. You got to be stoked right now.
I don't know if I can talk.
Well, podiums is something we're starting to get used to seeing you get. You've been on the podium a few times now, 4 times already, including a couple of seconds. You almost had it in Motegi, but sportsmanship is what saw you push another driver across. This time, nobody was pushing anybody except for you and the rest of the field. You are the winner here at Mosport.
Yeah, when I seen Danny in here running the GT3, I got a little nervous because he's fast, but I put about 400 laps of practice in for this race just because I needed a W this season real bad.
Well, you checked that box. Now that you've got that win, moving forward, do you think that this is going to see you kind of get to the next level, find that little something extra, and go from getting W's to maybe getting championships?
If I can keep this up throughout the rest of the season, I have a pretty good chance of running up there and running for the championship against Paul. So hopefully, I'm pretty good in North America side.
Yeah, by my quick math right now, you did move up to second with some of the downfalls of the drivers around you. You moving up to second, still got a little bit of a gap to make up to Paul, but you finished in front of him today, got some points. How you feeling about Watkins Glen here the next round?
Oh, that's gonna be a tough track to beat Paul at. A lot of long straights, a lot of high speed. So it's gonna take just as much work there as it did here to be able to pull one off.
Well, Robbie, you get a chance to be on the podium quite a bit, but this win's super special for you, first time. Anybody you want to thank or shout out to?
I just want to thank my team and need to plug racedayhobbies.com. They've been sticking through me with me this season, so need to put them up there too. It's kind of hard to breathe up here on this spot.
Well, hey man, nice job. Definitely was I think a crowd favorite. Well done, man. Well done.
Thanks, guys.
That was Robbie Morrison, our winner in the GT3 class, and we're thinking that might have been 5 or 6 different winners we've had in that class so far this season. So a lot of different guys up at the top. And we have someone else that we want to talk to. We don't get to talk to too often. Mark Ponick has joined us in the booth, so let's pull him in there and talk to him about how his podium race went. Mark, did you think it was going to slip away from you there early on with the trouble that you ran into?
Oh, I thought I was screwed when that happened. That's the absolute worst case scenario. The roof just started to wobble into turn 2, and I absolutely hammered him and submarined right underneath him.
Yeah, we saw a number of drivers have problems with interclass traffic out there today. Do you think that the attrition was really the redeeming factor and you've been able to get back up into third? Or do you think, barring everything else, that you had the pace to keep up there?
Well, I think by that point I had passed everybody that I had lost track to with the first pit. I'm not 100% sure because there was cars popping up all over the place. But trying to keep up the chat with Matt on Team WFO was at least keeping me in sync with where everybody was. And good on him to come in second, too. He got wiped out right at the start. So that's a good comeback for both of our teams.
Seemed to be a similar story for a lot of guys on the podium, not expecting probably to be up there towards the end. We've got less than half the season yet to go here. Are you expecting to manage more podiums here up at the top? Because it seems like the prototypes have been, other than Tinsey up at the top, switching around for second and third quite a bit.
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, Matt and I have raced in other series, and we tend to be pretty close. So at any given moment, I mean, Suzuka was a good example. I think we were within a second for the entire race. If we can keep that trend up, that's good by me. I think the guys all know me well enough to know that I'd be just as happy racing for last as long as it's a good race the entire time. And I get lucky in that I get those a lot. So it's been great so far.
Well, we're glad to see you back up in third place. And before I let you go, can I get your quick thoughts on Watkins Glen? You feel strong there?
Yeah, I really do like that track. It's got lots of nice little twists and turns to it. So now that I've figured out a bit of how to tune this car after, I don't know how many races we run now, it should be a little bit better. And actually, I got to thank Tinsey. He gave me a few tips after a practice one night earlier in the week, and a few of those things really stuck and helped out. So hopefully between his advice and a little bit more practice, I'll be able to keep up a bit better with those guys.
Yeah, you hammer away at the sword long enough, hopefully it gets into shape. Again, great job on the third place, and thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That was Mark Ponick, our third place finisher here today at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We're going to wrap this thing up finally and go get ourselves a little bit of water to drink, hopefully. Autobahn Motorcar Group is the official sponsor of this series, so thanks to them for putting this thing on. And thanks to John Ulmer, who puts all the work in behind the scenes to organize this lead. Thanks to the software and hardware that we use for our broadcast, and you can see those guys listed on your screen as well. Additional thanks to our musical contributors, Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, whose music you can also find at the websites listed. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Smitty, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. Next race, as we mentioned, that's going to be Watkins Glen. It'll be Monday, February 29th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern, so not very long from now, about 2 weeks. We also have upcoming races for other series on screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.